In the heart of a vast and scorched land called Ember Hollow, dragons ruled the skies with fire in their breath and pride in their bones. The cliffs glowed red even at night from the heat that never left, and ash coated the ground like snow. Here, every dragon was born with a flame in their chest and a fierce desire to burn brighter than the rest. Every dragon, except Zephyr. Zephyr was born pale blue, with shimmering scales that reflected sunlight like still water. From the day he opened his eyes, he stared not into the flames of the hearth but into the empty sky, wondering what it would feel like to see clouds dance or to feel cool drops fall from above. While other dragonlings blew sparks from their noses and scorched stones for fun, Zephyr only blinked and sighed, puzzled by their joy. "Why do you never try to breathe fire?" one of the elders once asked him, watching the young dragon silently watching the sky. "I don't want to burn," Zephyr said gently. "I want to feel the rain." The other dragons laughed, and some even growled. "Rain," they scoffed. "There hasn't been rain in Ember Hollow for 1,000 years. Fire is our legacy. Rain is a myth." But Zephyr believed otherwise. During the annual Skyflare festival, a time when all dragons lit the skies with fire in great spirals and roaring rings, Zephyr was expected to join. Instead, he stood apart on the cliff's edge, watching as fiery trails lit up the sky. But all he could imagine was water in the sky, soft and dancing, falling like a blessing on the cracked earth below. He drew clouds in the dust with his claw. Fat clouds. Storm clouds. Even little ones shaped like wings. "I don't want to fight," he whispered to the wind. "I want to heal." No one heard him, but the wind did, and it carried his dream far, far beyond Ember Hollow. As the years passed, Zephyr's heart remained unchanged. The other dragons grew taller, their flames fiercer, and their wings broader. But Zephyr remained quiet, his thoughts drifting far beyond the mountains that surrounded Ember Hollow. Instead of gathering in the caves to boast of battles won or flames burned, Zephyr spent his time tracing clouds in the sky. He would sit at the highest cliff and dream of faraway lands where rain came in abundance, where rivers flowed, and the earth thrived under cool, refreshing skies. One evening, as the sun began to sink below the horizon, Zephyr sat at the edge of the highest mountain peak. The others had gone back to the caves to sleep, but Zephyr stayed, his eyes closed, listening to the whisper of the wind. "I wish I could see the rain," Zephyr murmured softly, his voice barely audible. The wind carried his words, swirling around him like a living thing. For a moment, it seemed as if the world itself was listening. Then, a soft voice, a voice that seemed to come from the very air itself, spoke. "You can," the wind said, "but you must seek it." Zephyr opened his eyes, searching the sky. The air was still, but his heart raced with excitement. "Who's there?" Zephyr asked. "The wind," the voice replied. "I have watched you for many seasons. I have seen your heart filled with longing, and I know that your dream is not a foolish one. But it is not easy to find rain. You must venture far beyond the land of fire." Zephyr stood, his wings trembling with excitement. "Where do I go?" "Follow the whispers of the clouds," the wind whispered back. "Follow them, and you will find your answer." The dragon's heart soared. For the first time in his life, someone, or something, understood. He felt a surge of courage fill him. He had always known that the fire and ash were not his destiny. The rain, the clouds, the rivers, they were his true calling. That night, as the last embers of the Skyflare festival flickered out, Zephyr slipped away from Ember Hollow. He flew silently over the jagged cliffs and barren lands, guided by the whispers of the wind and the promise of something greater. His wings beat steadily through the cool night air, the stars sparkling overhead like a blanket of hope. Hours turned into days as he flew across lands he had never seen, vast deserts of dust, valleys of stone, and dark forests where shadows whispered. The world felt different now. It felt alive, waiting, as if it, too, had been waiting for him to arrive. On the third day of his journey, Zephyr found himself standing at the edge of a great riverbed, dry and cracked, with ancient stones scattered around. The wind swirled around him once more, bringing a faint scent of rain that made his heart flutter. "What is this place?" Zephyr asked the wind. "This is the river of the forgotten," the wind said. "Long ago, it was filled with the clearest water, but it has not seen rain in many years. The creatures who once lived here have long since left, and the river has become dry. But the magic of water is still here, Zephyr. It has not vanished entirely." Zephyr crouched near the dry riverbed, running his claws over the stones. As he did, Faint symbols began to glow on the rocks, symbols of water, of rain, of life. His heart raced. These were the ancient markings of water dragons, who had once roamed the skies, bringing rain and life wherever they went. They had long since disappeared, but their magic remained, hidden in the stones. Zephyr's wings fluttered in excitement. He had found the first clue. But there was so much more to discover. The rain he dreamed of was close, so close he could feel it in his bones. But the journey ahead would not be easy. He knew that he had to continue, if not for himself, then for the land and creatures that depended on water to survive. As Zephyr rose and spread his wings, the wind whispered again. The path to the rain is not an easy one, it cautioned. But if you believe, if you follow the song of the river, you may find it. Zephyr nodded. He was ready. He lifted his wings and soared higher into the sky, the promise of rain growing stronger with each beat. The wind grew stronger as Zephyr flew deeper into the unknown, its voice guiding him over crumbling cliffs and sleeping forests. The world below shifted with each mile. Ashen plains gave way to forgotten meadows, and dark stone turned slowly into cracked earth with faint hints of green. But the rain still had not come. Zephyr flew with purpose, chasing whispers in the sky, soft, fleeting messages that rode the breeze like music. Each whisper came like a thread, pulling him onward, urging him to trust, to believe. At first, he wondered if he was chasing illusions. But when the wind curled around him like an invisible friend, he knew it was real. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered through distant clouds, the wind whispered more clearly than ever before. Turn east, Zephyr, to the mountains where thunder sleeps. With a sharp turn of his wings, Zephyr obeyed, gliding toward a range of jagged peaks in the distance. As he neared, he saw something strange. The clouds above the peaks were still and heavy, not like the wild, fiery skies of Ember Hollow. They hovered low and thick, gray as old stone. He descended and landed on a ledge carved into the mountainside. The air here was different, cool, moist, electric. It tingled in his lungs. He stepped forward cautiously, each claw clinking against stone until he reached the mouth of a hidden cave. Inside, wind whirled in circles like it was trapped in a dance. And at the center, floating just above the ground, was something wondrous. A spirit, long and silver, with flowing strands like ribbons, twirled in midair. It shimmered like morning dew and moved like the sky itself. Its eyes were pale and kind, ancient as time. This was not just wind. It was the wind. You are the dreamer, the spirit said gently, its voice both everywhere and nowhere. The one who seeks rain. Zephyr stepped forward, awe in his eyes. Yes, he breathed. I've dreamed of rain my whole life. Even when everyone else said it was foolish. The spirit tilted its head. Dreamers are never foolish. They are simply ahead of the world. Zephyr's heart swelled. He had never felt so seen. Why does the rain no longer come? Zephyr asked. The land is dying. The rivers are gone. I want to bring it back. The spirit floated closer. Long ago, there were dragons like you, gentle-hearted and water-born. They brought the rain with their songs and soothed the earth with their breath. But when fire became more valued than water, they were forgotten. Their voices faded. And so did the rain. Zephyr's voice trembled. Can it return? Perhaps, the wind said, circling him. But to bring it back, you must awaken more than clouds. You must awaken memory, song, and belief. You must remind the world that water still matters. How? Zephyr asked. You must go to the river that remembered, said the wind. There, deep beneath the stone, flows a current of ancient water magic. It sleeps now. But if you can stir it, the rain will follow. First one drop, then many. Zephyr stood taller. I will go. The wind narrowed its eyes, testing him. This journey will be harder than any you've faced. The world may try to silence your voice. Even the sky may resist. But if your heart stays true, the rain will answer. I was born for this, Zephyr said with quiet conviction. The wind smiled, and with a sweeping gust, it wrapped around him in a spiral of shimmering silver. Then take this gift, my breath. It will help you speak to the sky when the time comes. Zephyr felt the magic settle in his chest, not like fire, but like a gentle pressure, cool and powerful. His wings shimmered faintly as if newly awakened. Go now, whispered the wind. The river of memory waits. With a nod, Zephyr stepped out of the cave, the sky darker now but not with ash, with clouds. He leapt from the cliff, his wings slicing the air with purpose, his heart filled with ancient wind. Zephyr followed the mountain winds eastward, where the clouds thickened and the air carried the scent of old water, faint, like memory itself. As he flew over dry plateaus and bone-white trees, the land whispered of times long past. There was no rain yet, but something stirred, something ancient, something waiting. By the time he reached the valley, the sun had dipped low, casting golden shadows over the land. Zephyr descended carefully, his wings folding as he landed at the edge of a wide, silent riverbed. Once, it must have roared and flowed with life, but now it was cracked and dry, choked with dust and forgotten stones. And yet, the stones hummed. He stepped onto the old river's floor, the ground warm beneath his claws. Carved into the rocks were markings, not random, but purposeful, swirling in fluid patterns like water itself. They glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with his breath. Zephyr bent down and touched one of the stones. It flickered beneath his claw, and for a moment, he heard it, soft music, as though the river still sang beneath the surface. "This is the river that remembered," whispered the wind in his ear. "Its memory runs deep." Zephyr followed the glow, moving from stone to stone, until he reached the center of the riverbed. There, a circle of smooth stones lay arranged like a wheel, their symbols brighter than the rest. He stood at the center, and the ground beneath him pulsed. Thrum! He gasped. The sound didn't come from outside, it echoed in his bones. "How do I awaken it?" he asked aloud, breathless. A soft gust of wind curled around him. "With your voice. Sing what was forgotten." Zephyr hesitated. He had never sung before, not in front of anyone. But here, in the stillness of the valley, surrounded by the memory of water, he knew it was time. He closed his eyes and let his heart speak. It began as a hum, quiet and unsure. But slowly, it became a melody, a song he didn't know he knew. The notes rose and fell like waves, his voice carrying the sorrow of drought and the hope of healing. The ground trembled. The stones pulsed brighter. Cracks shimmered blue. A sudden, cool breeze swept through the valley. The air grew heavy, not with heat, but with moisture. Something was waking. The song spilled from Zephyr's chest like a river unblocked. It wasn't fiery or fierce. It was steady, patient, and deep as time. He sang of lakes that once mirrored the stars, of streams that danced through forests, of clouds that wept joyfully onto open plains. And then, a sound. Drip. Zephyr opened his eyes. From between two ancient stones, a single droplet of water rolled free. It sparkled as it fell, landing softly on the dust. More followed. Trickles grew, and thin lines of water crawled through the cracks like vines, connecting stones with shimmering threads. The river remembered. Zephyr stood in silence as water began to flow, thin at first, but real. Life stirred. Grass trembled at the edge of the bank. Birds cried out in distant trees. The dry world blinked in surprise. The valley breathed again. The wind circled Zephyr gently. "You have done what no fire dragon dared. You listened." Zephyr looked around, tears in his eyes. "Will it keep flowing?" "For now. But this is just the beginning," the wind said. "You've awakened the memory. Now you must awaken the sky." Zephyr nodded. "Then I'll keep going." He lifted his wings, droplets falling from his scales as he rose into the mist that now began to gather. The river whispered a soft goodbye, its song flowing gently behind him. The sky above Zephyr darkened, not with thunder, but with challenge. As he soared away from the river that remembered, the air shifted. No longer soft and guiding, the wind now pushed against him. Thick clouds began to gather in twisted layers, and the breeze hissed like warning. Zephyr flew higher still, his wings strong from days of flight, but his heart beating faster with each gust. "The sky will not open easily," the wind whispered. "It tests those who wish to change it." Zephyr understood. If rain was to return, he would have to earn it, not through fire or force, but through courage. Ahead, a great cloud wall loomed, dense and swirling, streaked with pale lightning. It stretched across the horizon like a sleeping beast. This was the skybound trial, the final gate between earth and sky. Zephyr hovered at the edge. Below, he saw dry valleys stretching endlessly. Above, only the storm. He took a breath. "I will not turn back." And with a surge of his wings, he flew into the clouds. Darkness swallowed him immediately. The air was wet, heavy, and alive. Wind howled from every direction, twisting his flight. Rainless lightning crackled nearby, flashing white and violet. Zephyr flinched as the storm pushed him sideways. He spun, tumbled, then steadied himself, flying forward with resolve. But the storm was not just wind and cloud. It spoke. Why do you seek what is gone? It growled in a voice deep and booming. Rain no longer belongs to this world. Fire has taken its place. Zephyr beat his wings harder. Because I believe it can return. You are alone, thundered the storm. No other dragon dares seek rain. You are weak. Foolish. Zephyr flew upward, climbing toward a patch of silver light. Then let me be foolish. I would rather dream of water than live in a world of ash. A blast of wind slammed into him, sending him spiraling. But he caught himself, barely. His wings burned, muscles trembling. Still, he pressed on. You are not of fire, the storm roared. You do not belong in the sky. Zephyr shouted back, louder than he ever had before. I am of sky, of cloud, of river and storm. I am not fire, I am change. And the storm paused. A long silence filled the clouds. Then, from deep within the storm's heart, a low, distant sound rose. A heartbeat. Not his. Not thunder. It was the sky itself. The clouds began to shift around him. Lightning faded. The wind slowed. And suddenly, Zephyr was rising through the final layer of cloud, into light. He burst through the top of the storm into a wide open sky, clear and endless. The sun shone above him, and the cloud sea below glowed silver. It was quiet, warm, and still. And in that stillness, a single, cool drop fell onto his snout. He looked up. Clouds were gathering above, but not in fury. In invitation. Zephyr closed his eyes, tears mingling with the drop. He had passed the trial. The sky had listened. The wind circled him one last time. You have proven your heart. What do I do now? Zephyr asked. Sing, rain bringer, whispered the wind. The sky is ready. Zephyr spread his wings wide, hovering high above the world, and began to sing. The same song he sang at the river that remembered, but now, higher, stronger, bolder. His voice rang across the sky, threading through the clouds, drawing them together in a dance older than fire. Below, shadows shifted, leaves stirred, animals lifted their heads. And then, rain. It began as a mist, then drops, then a gentle curtain falling across the earth. It wasn't loud or angry. It was soft, healing, steady. The kind of rain that soaked into roots and memory. Zephyr smiled as the sky wept with joy. Zephyr glided beneath silver clouds, watching the rain nourish the cracked land below. Hills shimmered with wetness, and tiny rivers carved new paths through dust. But the sky whispered again, softer now, yet filled with urgency. The rain has returned, it said, but it is not yet safe. Zephyr tilted his head. Not safe. There is a place where thunder sleeps, unawakened and bitter. A mountain that holds the final voice of the storm. You must go there and make it remember its purpose. Zephyr nodded. He didn't fully understand, but he trusted the wind. He followed its guiding gusts eastward, through mists and over blooming fields that had once been dead. After a long flight, a towering shape rose on the horizon, a mountain cloaked in dark clouds, growling faintly with distant thunder. This was it, the mountain of hollow thunder. Unlike Ember Hollow, this mountain was cold and quiet. No fire. No ash. Only silence and the low rumble of something ancient and forgotten. Zephyr landed near its base. Jagged stones poked from the earth like broken teeth, and black clouds coiled around its peak like sleeping dragons. As he stepped forward, the ground hummed beneath his claws. Not welcoming, warning. He entered a wide cavern carved into the mountainside, lit only by glowing veins of crystal that pulsed faintly blue. Each step echoed like thunder trapped in stone. The further he went, the more the air pressed against him, as though the mountain didn't want to be disturbed. And then, a sound. Low, mournful, like a sigh that had lasted 1,000 years. In the deepest chamber, Zephyr found it. A giant bell made of stone and lightning, suspended in air by invisible force. It throbbed gently, its surface covered in markings, dragons, clouds, rivers, and thunder. It was a memory, a voice, a heart. The bell of storm song, whispered the wind. Once, every water dragon would come here to harmonize with the sky. But when they were silenced, the bell fell quiet too. Zephyr stepped closer. It sounds sad. It is lonely, the wind replied. Zephyr looked up at the bell. What do I do? Speak to it, the wind said. Let it remember that its song still matters. Zephyr nodded. He took a breath and began to sing, not loud this time, but soft and steady. A lullaby for a storm that had fallen asleep. He sang of falling rain, of clouds drifting across blue skies, of thunder that rumbled not with anger, but with rhythm. The bell shimmered. Faint light danced along its edges. Zephyr's voice grew, threading higher and deeper, until the chamber itself began to vibrate. Boom. A single note echoed from the bell. Then another. Boom. Boom. Zephyr kept singing, tears sliding down his face, not of sorrow, but of release. He wasn't singing alone anymore. The bell sang back. Thunder rolled from the mountain's heart. Crystals lit up. Rain clouds gathered above the peak, spiraling upward into the sky like awakening giants. The wind howled with joy. You have done it, it cried. You have awakened hollow thunder. Zephyr stepped back as the bell rang fully now, deep, warm, and alive. The mountain itself began to change. Water trickled from the walls. The clouds above spread outward, carrying thunder and rain to lands that hadn't known moisture in years. The storm had been healed. Zephyr turned to leave, his wings unfurling. As he stepped into the open sky once more, lightning danced above, not in rage, but in celebration. The rain was no longer just a dream. It was a movement, and Zephyr was its voice. Zephyr soared through skies newly awakened. The mountain of hollow thunder lay behind him, pulsing with living storm, its bell song echoing through cloud and stone. Below, rivers reawakened from their long sleep, carving new paths through the dry earth. Hills turned green, trees stretched skyward, and the wind carried the scent of change. But something still lingered, something missing. Though the rains had begun to fall and the thunder now hummed gently over the land, the heart of the storm had not yet opened fully. The clouds gathered, yes, but they held back, as though part of the sky still slept. The song of the sleeping rain must be sung, the wind said. It lies hidden in a place where no voice has reached for centuries. It waits to be heard again. Zephyr followed the whisper to a forgotten plateau, nestled between two silver mountains. The clouds hung low here, hugging the ground like fog, and the silence was heavy, soft, yet filled with weight, like a sigh that had gone too long unspoken. The wind spiraled slowly around him. This is the Vale of Quiet Skies, it murmured. It was once a cradle of rain, tended by dragons who sang the skies into weeping joy. But when the song stopped, the rain withdrew into slumber. Zephyr landed gently on the mossy floor. Though dry, the soil held a strange softness, like it remembered water even in its absence. He walked forward until he reached a stone circle, weathered and cracked, and stood in its center. Faint echoes of music tingled in the air, too faint to hear, yet too strong to ignore. He sat down and listened. The world around him was hushed. The clouds above shimmered but did not weep. The wind paused, as if even it waited. And then Zephyr began to hum. He did not know this song, not in his mind. But his heart remembered it. The lullaby of the sky. The melody that once called the rain from its sleep. The first notes were soft, trembling like a single drop in still water. He sang of sorrow, the sorrow of drought, of thirst, of rivers turned to stone. He sang of dreams, clouds above a fire-born land, the hope of healing, the courage to believe. He sang of awakening, of rivers that remembered, bells that thundered, and the dragon who dared to sing. The sky listened. The clouds above swirled, stirred, and began to gather more tightly. A soft breeze brushed against Zephyr's wings, lifting his voice higher. The stones beneath him pulsed faintly, glowing with old magic. The air thickened, not with ash, but with promise. Zephyr stood as his voice soared into the heavens. His wings spread wide, catching the winds that rose around him. And then, a sound. A soft patter. Then another. Rain. Not just drops. A curtain. A song. The sky opened, and the rain began to fall, not in anger, not in fury, but in joy. A weeping song. A healing flood. The long sleeping rain had awakened. Zephyr looked to the sky, letting the drops soak his scales. He laughed, bright and clear, as the clouds sang back to him, their thunder gentle, their lightning soft like breath. The land responded. The moss beneath him brightened. Tiny blooms opened for the first time in generations. Animals crept from hiding to drink. Birds danced through the mist. The rain had returned to the world. And its song had a name. Zephyr. The storm clouds above whispered like storytellers reunited with a long-lost friend. Zephyr stood in the heart of the Vale of Quiet Skies, now transformed, soft rain pouring around him, sliding down the curve of his wings, soaking into the grateful earth. But this was only the beginning. The rain had awakened in this small corner of the world. To reach the rest of the forgotten lands, especially Ember Hollow, it had to spread. Zephyr knew that one drop could start a river. And sometimes, a single drop was all it took to break through the hardest of hearts. He lifted off from the circle of song, wings catching the gentle winds that now carried the scent of wet stone and blooming petals. Below him, the vale bloomed like a painting brushed with green and silver. It was beautiful, alive, and waiting. Zephyr turned toward the west, toward home. The journey back was unlike any he had taken before. When he had first left Ember Hollow, the sky had been dry and cruel, the land cracked like a broken plate. Now, as he flew, he watched new streams carve their way across hills. Trees shivered in the breeze. Grass stretched up through places it had once vanished. Creatures came out from the shadows, watching the sky with wonder. But as he neared the cliffs of Ember Hollow, the change halted. The skies above the dragon's homeland remained stubbornly clear. The land was as dry as before, the air choked with the scent of old flame. No clouds, no breeze, no rain, and no welcome. From the high cliff came the familiar roar of the elders. A chorus of deep, crackling voices rose. Zephyr returns, the dragon who fled our ways. The one who chased illusions while we stayed loyal to fire. Why have you come back, cloud-hearted one? Zephyr landed gently on the edge of the cliff, his scales glistening with water, his wings trailing mist. He bowed his head respectfully. I came to bring rain. The dragons laughed, smoke curling from their mouths. Rain, there is no such thing. You dream still, foolish hatchling. Zephyr looked to the sky. Then watch. He stepped to the center of the cliff and closed his eyes. The sky here had long been sealed by fire, hardened by pride and fear. But Zephyr believed. He remembered the river that remembered, the bell of storm song, the veil of quiet skies. He began to sing, not loud at first, but soft, so soft the other dragons leaned in just to hear. His voice flowed like a stream, rose like wind through mountain passes, curved like clouds on a quiet day. He sang of rain that healed, of water that gave life, of skies that could still forgive. The dragons quieted, even their fire dimmed. Then, drip, a single drop of rain fell onto the stone between Zephyr's claws. Another fell, then another. The dragons froze. More drops followed, cool, sweet, and pure. The clouds above began to gather, darkening with promise. Thunder rumbled, not harsh, but steady, like a heartbeat reborn. The elders stepped back, gazing upward. This is not possible. Zephyr turned to them, rain now soaking his wings. It is. It always was. You just stopped believing. The land around them trembled as the sky poured open above Ember Hollow for the first time in 1,000 years. The red cliffs, so long burned dry, darkened with water. Cracks filled, caves shimmered, streams flowed from mountaintops, and the dragons, fierce, proud, fire-born, stood in silence as the first rain of their lifetime fell around them. Zephyr lifted his head and let it wash over him. One drop had started it all. The rains did not come in fury. They came like an old friend, gently, steadily, lovingly. For days, the sky wept with joy over Ember Hollow. The red cliffs turned dark with moisture, and the scorched earth softened, taking in every drop like a long-awaited breath. From cracks in the stone, seeds long forgotten stirred and reached upward. Shoots of green poked through black soil. Flowers that hadn't bloomed for centuries opened shyly beneath the falling sky. And Zephyr watched it all from the edge of the highest cliff. He had not spoken since the rain began. He let it speak instead. It drummed on dragon wings and danced on stones. It trickled into rivers that hadn't run since ancient times. Waterfalls gushed from caves. Pools formed in valleys that had once been wastelands. Ember Hollow, once a place of flame and silence, was singing again. Other dragons began to gather where Zephyr perched. At first, they stayed distant, unsure of this new world. But then, one by one, they came closer, not to challenge, but to ask. Is this, because of you? Where did this come from? Can we learn how? Zephyr turned to them, not with pride, but with kindness. It didn't come from me. It came from listening, from remembering, from daring to believe that fire isn't the only way. An old dragon stepped forward, Elder Pyrrhus, once the fiercest of the flame breathers. He looked down at his claws, where water now pooled. We were wrong, the elder said. We forgot that we came from sky and river too. Not just fire. Zephyr bowed his head. Then help me remember. Help me teach the rain to stay. And so, they did. Day by day, the dragons of Ember Hollow began to change. They helped carve channels for the rivers. They uncovered the hidden symbols in the stones, water magic their ancestors once knew. They sat beside Zephyr on the cliffs, learning to listen to the wind and sing to the clouds. And the land bloomed with them. In the heart of Ember Hollow, a vast valley once choked with ash began to shimmer with life. They named it the Valley That Bloomed, where colors burst like laughter across hills. Blue flowers danced in the breeze. Tall grasses swayed like waves. Even the dragon's scales began to shine with renewed hues, some red, some gold, and others, like Zephyr's, soft blue and silver. Creatures returned to the valley. Birds nested in trees. Deer drank from the springs. The valley became a sanctuary for all, not just dragons. And at its center, they carved a tall stone with glowing blue script that read, "One drop, one voice, one dream." Visitors came from far away to see the valley and the dragon who dreamed of rain. Some laughed in disbelief. Some wept. Others, like Zephyr once had, simply looked to the sky and whispered their own dreams. And the rain listened. Years passed. The valley that bloomed became legend across all lands. Dragons from distant ranges came not to conquer, but to learn. They came seeking not the fiercest flame, but the quiet strength of the sky. And at the heart of it all stood Zephyr, the dragon once mocked, now called with reverence, the Rainmaker. But Zephyr never saw himself as a hero. He still walked alone at dawn to the edge of the cliffs, where the wind whispered and the clouds rolled in like dreams. He listened more than he spoke. He remembered. One morning, after many quiet seasons, a young dragon approached him. Her name was Nyla. She had scales that shimmered like morning frost and eyes full of wonder. "Rainmaker," she said, bowing with respect, "is it true you made the sky cry with a song?" Zephyr smiled gently. "No one makes the sky cry, Nyla. You ask, you hope, you believe, and sometimes, it listens." Nyla blinked. "I've been trying to sing to the wind. But it doesn't answer." Zephyr looked toward the horizon, where clouds gathered like friends returning. "Then come with me. Let's ask together." They climbed the old path to the highest stone, once barren, now crowned with soft moss and small flowers. Zephyr inhaled deeply and closed his eyes. "Do you know," he said softly, "I used to think I was alone with this dream. That no one would understand. That maybe I was broken." Nyla sat beside him. "But you weren't. You were just the first." Zephyr turned to her. "There will be others. Like you. Like the ones yet to be born. The dream will live beyond me." He stood slowly and spread his wings, now laced with silver that shimmered in the morning mist. "This time," he said, "you sing. I'll listen." Nyla opened her mouth, hesitant at first. But then, a note escaped, soft as rain on leaves, unsure but full of hope. The wind caught it, lifted it, scattered it into the sky. And the sky answered. Raindrops fell, not in torrents, but in kisses. Flowers lifted their heads. Trees whispered. The valley sighed with joy. Zephyr smiled, stepping back. His time was shifting, he could feel it. He was no longer the only dreamer. As more young dragons joined Nyla, singing to the sky, Zephyr looked up one last time. The clouds above parted slightly, revealing a beam of sunlight like a crown upon the valley. He whispered to the wind, "Thank you for believing in me." Then, with slow wings and a peaceful heart, Zephyr took to the sky, soaring high above the valley that bloomed. Dragons below paused to watch him glide through the mist, his body a ribbon of silver and blue against the gray. He did not vanish. He became the rain. And every time a drop kissed the land, it was as if Zephyr returned, reminding the world that fire can warm, but rain can heal. That a single dream, carried by wind and heart, can water an entire world. Cloud with rain moral lesson. Even when the world around you burns with doubt and fear, hold on to your dream. No matter how soft your voice or how small your hope may seem, your belief can become the rain that brings life back to the barren places. Be brave enough to dream differently, and patient enough to water it with time. For more motivation stories, please like, share and subscribe this channel. Thanks and God bless.